All right, everyone, thank you for tuning in to this very special installment of the P2 podcast. I have with me Bryce and our good friend and special guest, Paige. Paige, say hi to the folks that are watching.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, whether you're tuning in from Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, anywhere that'll take our fucking money. We appreciate you for being here because today is super cool because we have a really dope announcement to make. And I'm going to pass it off to Bryce, our faithful leader, to go ahead and tell you guys what we have going on.
I totally thought that you were going to be like, I'll pass it off to Paige to say, no, yeah. So Paige is going to be joining the team. So we've been working. What do you want from me? That's the announcement. So Paige is going to be joining the team. We have been working as partners, arm's length partners for quite a while now, just friends. She's been with BA, and we've been very, I think, respectful of the way that each party works for years now, which for me, that's like a really big thing, right? Like just being able to see someone from a distance and just appreciate their work practices and appreciate like how serious that they take their job, how serious they treat taking their client, or how seriously they take treating their clients well. Dude, I'm telling you, my brain's not working today. But with Paige, I think that was something that I've always expected that we would make a really good team. I just never thought that the opportunity would come, and the opportunity came. And I think that it's great for both parties at this point. And Paige is going to bring a new dynamic to P2 that we up to this point have currently not really explored. So with that being said, Paige, I will obviously let you tell everyone a little bit more about like what you do, who you are, and what you're planning to do with P2.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And I feel like I totally agree that obviously the friendships have created such a cool space for all of us to exist and like see each other from afar and stay connected almost. Cause obviously we're busy people. And so like the one beauty of social media, I guess, is being able to see what people put out there. And I also appreciate people who just put out good content, regardless of stupid algorithms, and just are consistent. And I just have always felt that with you guys as well. So it's really cool. People have even said like, oh yeah, you guys like support each other a lot on Instagram. It's like, yeah, like that's the point. Like that's why this is happening. It's like so easy and good. And yeah, just like recognizes like. And so I've been online coaching in like this space for since 2018. I was doing it prior since 2015 in a remote situation, more corporate. So kind of for a while, it's so weird, but so awesome. And I plan on doing like what I've always been doing, just in a new context, with hopefully access to people who need me, we can dive into the specifics.
And on that note, I'm going to dip the fuck out so that anything we get from here can be clipped with Paige speaking and me not corrupting the internet space. So, all right, guys, appreciate you having me on. Do me well.
All right, now that he's gone, the good stuff. I'm going to talk as little as possible to let Paige let you guys just know a bit about her. I'm going to cue her up for a couple of really cool things that I think you guys should know about Paige. And really just kind of let her, just gonna steal the show. And so I want to start just kind of pretty basic. I want the people to know about you, about your life. What are you going through right now? What's current event Paige life look like right now?
I love that because I think it does set this up for just how crazy all of this has been. So I'm going to talk like no one knows me. I'm 33 and I've been a dietitian since 2020. So have again been leaning into what I can offer as a health professional since then. But I'm also a wife and a mom, and I still consider myself a new mom because the whirlwind of the world of parenting is insane. And I am. I mean, I still have littles, so I had my first in COVID times. So Zoe's 3. I mean, I think I love connecting with people who also had kids during a fucking pandemic because it's like unparalleled and like almost I think we're also wrapping our heads around the fact that we went through that. And so much was different for us who were pregnant and like going through hospital situations where like no one could come. Like Brad missed ultrasounds. My husband was not allowed to come. So anyways, it feels like it was yesterday at the same time that it was 10 years ago. And then I had Isabel and she's 1.5. So I have a 3-year-old, a 1.5-year-old, and I'm 6 months pregnant. So if you're watching the YouTube,
Paige went their baby bumps better than anyone that I know.
Yeah, we're so excited. And it's another girl. So we're going to have 3 girls. She's due in, we don't have a name yet. She's due in March. So needless to say, things are crazy. I have a wonderful support system at home. Work remotely, just like all of us online coaches do. And most of us from home. And so I have a space here and we've got our parents around to help a lot. Brad works his full-time job. And yeah, so it's so crazy, but I think that ties into like coaching and the demographic and people who find me because I am going through all of this. And it is priority number one because it has to be when you have children. But like we're still doing lots of other stuff. We like the grandiose we of like we're still trying to like do stuff with our lives and be our own people and accomplish things. And I love that I can't not be that way. And so I get those people too. So I get to work with those people. But
100%.
that's personal stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to pause you because you have some new P2 apparel on and you're hiding it with your pretty hair.
I actually forgot I threw this on.
I
It's the new one?
It's the newest shirt. I don't even have it yet. Yeah, I know. It's gangster. I love it. I love it. No, I mean, like you guys mentioned before when Bryce was still here, just to add to it, like Paige and I are both from the 330. So people don't know that. We're both from Northeast Ohio. So, I just relate to that mentality in general. I think when you grow up in a certain area, there's definitely a thought collective around the way you do things, the way you think about the world, the way you see it, what you want out of life. And like you guys said, like it's cool to be able to see just like the homogeny between like desires, wants, practices. Like, oh, like Paige does a lot of things the way we do. She thinks about things the way that we do. So the connection has always been there, which made the next step of integrating, Paige and her beautiful family into the team, bringing them into the P2 fold, because Paige is more than a coach. We talk a lot about content and education and what we do for our clients. And to be honest, I put that as like a very distant, like tertiary thing that we do, right? I think that if you talk about any, like for me, sports is always a great analogy for life. Talk about any great coach in any sport. People remember the personalities. They don't just remember the records. They see the records, but everyone always subconsciously ties the records to who that man or woman was and who they were to the kids that they coached or to the adults that they coached, professionals that they coached. And, I think that who Paige is outside of being a coach is so much brings so much to who she is as a coach and what she can provide to her clients, who she is as a mom, as a partner, to her friends, to her family members. Like she brings that same kind of essence to her connections that she makes in the professional space. And I think that's what really separates her and definitely aligns us.
Oh, that makes me so emotional. I mean, that like, yeah, when you like live by that and then someone says that back to you, it's like, what more could you ask for?
No, I mean, 100%. I mean, like, it is the contextual stuff. Like we talk about mindset, right? And I'll let you kind of take the wheel after we're just kind of teeing it up. But like, it is so much more than numbers. Like I can go build a program for somebody and say, hey, listen, this is the perfect program. And it could be objectively the most optimal program for whatever their goals are. But if they don't buy into it, if they don't know how to execute, if they feel lost, what did I do? Mm-hmm. Right? It's the other things that get them the other 95% of the way. And so, it plays a lot into, how a person thinks, perceives, how they relate, how they connect with you. And, I'll let you kind of expound on how you do that with people. How do you integrate that kind of approach into your relationships and your professional connections?
Yeah, I think it makes me so excited because even though there's this long onboarding call with a client and maybe even the exploration call prior where they tell me a lot about them and then I set them up for what to expect even just in my nature, like once there's like a sweet spot with check-ins that if they buy in and they're into it, it's usually like 3-4 weeks in. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but there's always like a moment where I'm like, oof, I know this client now. And it's fun. And it doesn't happen right away because I think a lot of people navigate like, how am I supposed to talk to a dietitian? Like I've never had one before, or a coach in general. And I think obviously every coach can set that up with their client in terms of boundaries and like what to share, but it is cool. It's a cool moment when you like cross that boundary when you, yeah, get into check-ins and getting to the mode of things. I think I see a lot, like sometimes I feel like I'm living in two worlds where I have my social media side of everything, and like that's where I live the most. It's where my clients come from the most of the time. It's where a ton of my friends are. Obviously, I have a lot of friends in Akron, but I wouldn't even say a lot compared to like the friends in quantity that I have online, obviously, just because that's the nature of an online friendship. And when my Akron friends and like my family members and like people who maybe I met through Brad who work with him ask me for help, that's like one of my favorite things because I'm not an online coach to them. I'm a dietitian to them. And that's my favorite thing. Like I was asked to do a lecture at Mustard Seed Market here in Akron. They've got 3 locations and have been around since the 70s. And that is what I love to do. I love to be around people who see me as a dietitian, I guess, and not just an online coach and everything that can come with that. And so obviously being a dietitian is not the end all be all. So that's not at all what I'm saying, but it's cool that it's a connection thing.
Yeah.
Just, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, 100%. Like you mentioned, like the dietitian piece isn't an end all be all, but I think it's a special thing to have people who are close to you, even distantly close, friends of friends and stuff like that, want to reach out and take you up on your services. Because they could call anyone, right? They could call some person, and it might even be easier. I think that there is, for some people, a barrier for asking a friend for help, right? And it's like, hey, like, can you help me with this? Because how do you traverse the business professional relationship with the person that you have known originally on the personal side of things? So it speaks a lot to the character of you, right? That they're willing to trust you with that. And also that they trust your knowledge, right? It's not just like, let me do Paige a favor and give her a client. It's like, you're not cheap, right? Rightfully so. So like someone
Yeah, like
wanting
if you're
the
saying
best.
this is my career, like people say, do you do that? And I'm like, yes, full time. And it's like a funny question because again, when it's not coming from an online space, they really don't know if I work with someone who has celiac. Like a friend literally just asked me that for her sister-in-law. And I said, yes, like that is my job, like, and I'd love to show you this side of things.
Definitely posing this question, in a very sensitive way, obviously, because you are transitioning from a previous team. And I want you to be able to speak to your experience, the things you learned, what you're bringing with you, and what you hope to continue to capitalize and evolve on and expound on.
Yeah, I think any coaching situation, when you have the support of people and family, like you get to do a lot, like BA's family, and I couldn't even explain what I've learned, there. And I think what I can say is that I certainly take ownership and full responsibility of how much I've grown professionally because I've done the continuing education. There are things that I see and I'm like, oof, that's for me. Like I'm going to do that. And it's not something that was ever required of us. But I think that I was able to push myself to do more and to write a book and to like do all these things because I had such a nurturing place, and so that's first and foremost. I think any coach that like is just in a good place support wise, a lot's going to come out of that. So I think like just experience over time, whether you're by yourself or with a team, it's the longer you do it, the more you're going to know, and I think like everything that comes up, I feel for me on a client basis that I don't know, obviously the first correct thing to do is honesty about it. And then it fires me up for what I should know. And that's not to say I'm going to half-ass it. That's like what's missing in coaching. And I think that that's what's cool about doing this after a while and not getting complacent is like, no, that's a big gap in every client's coaching needs. It's not just this one client. And so, 5 years in this specific space, building off of 9 years total, just I'm excited to like lean more into mindset stuff and mental health stuff. Like I've said this a couple times, but if I ever finish my master's, I started it in nutrition, but I think I want to go psychology because there's that missing link. Like a dietitian is a therapist in so many ways, and we have to pump the brakes at some point because we just don't have the resources. And so I want to expand on that side of things because mindset is so important when you're doing anything related to food because it's such a central part of everyone's lives. And this kind of goes into the whole point of mindset, and what I do feel like I bring to the whole coaching space is that framing the right mindset around what you're doing is truly, in my opinion, what will make you successful. Like you can work with 5 coaches who give you the exact same protocol. It's going to click with someone who helps you see it correctly or who helps you frame it in a really healthy way. And maybe you get results in the moment with coaches that don't give you the mindset piece, but what happens after? Why did you have to hire the second and the third and the fourth coach? And I love that part of it, and I think also it's again ever growing with every client I see, and just me as a person too. Like I'm a very empathetic person and could empathize with my parents, my moms and dads who were my clients before I was one. But the second I became a mom, woof, you guys, I get it a little bit more, right? And that's just life. And so the more you go through personally, obviously, the more that you can help. So I've been in therapy. Like I could talk a lot about that, right? Now I'm a parent and I've competed and I didn't do a national circuit, but I got nationally qualified and I did it for 5 years. Lots of hard preps, meal plan preps, bad coaches, good coaches. I messed it up, and then I reversed and did it well. And I think, yeah, just all of those experiences help you coach, not just how to do it. Like everyone, we can copy and paste, but it's doing it and understanding why you're doing it. What's the point of any of this? And I love that. I love it. It's my favorite part of check-ins.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you said earlier, make it meaningful, and then we'll make it matter. Those both like just kind of stuck with me. Because I think that so many people do things just cause, and it's a weird thing for me, right? You speak to being a parent, and to my knowledge, I'm not one, but it's one of those things where I used to always say, like, it would frustrate me when I would ask people, like, why'd you do that? Whether my little brothers or friends, and I don't know. I'm like, ooh. I'm like, that's like the one. I'm like, you could like rob a liquor store. Like you could do a lot of things for me as your dad, and answering I don't know as to why you did something will be the most frustrating thing. I will ground you for eternity, mostly because I'm like, no, even if it was like a intrusive thought, I think there's a learned skill, which I think I just was taught through a lot of just interesting familial dynamics, but about always thinking about what you're going to do and why you're doing it, right? Like to just do something is why most people get hurt, mess things up, lose out on opportunities. Like Bryce and I were talking about in the previous podcast, like people who will take a giant 45-pound plate, this little girl lugging it across, slap it on the floor, put a barbell next to it to do RDLs. And I'm like, sweetie, you could have just stood on the ground. like, did you think about what you were trying to do here? Did you even analyze this? Or did you just see it and go, I'm going to do it? And then just throw some shit together, right? There's a lot of pitfalls that can be missed by just thinking about, okay, why does this matter? And then, like you said, to extrapolate that into like food, emotional food health, and how people relate to food. And like you said, it's a cultural centerpiece. It's what brings a lot of people together. It's one of the only things that you can take to any country with a person from any color, race, creed, nationality, sit down and commune over a meal. Like that's so important. But there's also so many different cultural dynamics and influence. And how do you speak to a person who grew up in the deep South where they deep fry everything and use butter and everything? And like it's like bland foods. It's just like, no, we don't eat that. Like we have to flavor our food. How do you teach that person versus the person who's like, hey, like, this is what we ate with a very strict regimented. I don't eat that. I don't eat that. I have a restrictive mentality. So it's like you have two different ends of that pendulum to talk to. And yes,
It's definitely, just an interesting part of clientele. And I do feel like it can be super limiting if you don't have that in your arsenal as a coach, because if your client says, my parents refused to cook anything but their cultural food and it was awful, it was like we were butting heads the whole time, and your coach says, well, just stay strong. They don't understand. It's like, or, it can't just be, they don't care about being healthy. Well, that's not it either. You have to, it's why you can't just give meal plans to everyone. It's why in my questionnaires I added, do you deal with food insecurity, right? Like, do you live really far from a grocery store? Like, I can't just tell you to go pick up a protein shake. Maybe you can't afford it. And so there are lots of levels to the different experiences that people have with food. And again, the more you hear them, the more clients you get like that, the better you're going to be able to coach people through it. Sometimes it's, I'm learning too. So it's like, you tell me what you need. What was this experience like for you? How can you be supported in it? And that's the best thing, is we come to an agreement, like a middle place, because on paper, what I do is I give macros, right? And supplements if necessary. We talk about your cardio, you get a workout. And on paper, that's great. I will give you recommendations that I truly stand by for your goals. However, they're just numbers, and so it's not the end all be all. And we need to talk about that. And we need to talk about it on a daily basis. We need to talk about it on a weekly basis and a monthly basis. So actually, I said this on the last podcast that had with you guys. If you don't have a coach that is comfortable talking about your mindset, not just in the beginning and at the end, but like every step of the way, then you're missing something in your coaching. Like, obviously there's ebbs and flows. The longer you work with a coach, the more likely it is that things are going to go wrong or that you're going to have a really awful week. But what does awful mean? That's the point. What does awful mean to you, and why are you framing it that way? Because there's a good chance that you're making it out to be something that it's not. So yeah, make it meaningful. As it can be applied to anything, but especially with, like, if you're really gonna, I love, by now people know that tracking macros is my thing, and I teach it and I love it. But if you're going to track macros, you better be doing it for a good reason. Don't just do it because your friend's doing it. Don't just tell, like, when people say, can you do a consult for my mom? I'm like, did they ask? I don't think so. Right. Like, I'm not going to make them track macros or teach them about macros if that's coming from you. So even with like potential clients, like, you got to make it meaningful, and you got to make sure that you, for your clients, are there for them on the mindset journey the entire time, because it will change.
Yeah. No, I mean, you had a point there, right? Like, I used to say all the time, like, you could walk up to a homeless person and offer them a salad, and they could throw it back at you and say, I want a beer. And it doesn't matter if it's good for them. It's about what they wanted, right? What does it mean to them? And you want to be able to provide value that people, with a line of the education you want to put out, right? Like your message, hey, I want people to be healthy. I want you to live long and enriched lives. I want you to live free of the disease and conditions that come with unhealthy, practices. And I need you to want that. I can't go out and like just start fucking food mat thumping people in the face with, hey, you need this, right? It's like, no, you need to understand it. And I think that's always been, like, to your point earlier about cultures and the differences, is like, kids were taught different things. Like, I was taught very different things. I grew up, I never drank water. Unless I was running suicides at practice, I never drank water. It was not something I would come downstairs, hey, mom, can I have something to drink? You can have some water. Okay, never mind. I'm like, I wanted juice or pop. I didn't want anything else. And so it wasn't until college that I just like challenged myself. You say, you know what, I want to be a bit more, just healthy. So I'm going to just stick off of like pop. No more Sprite, no more Dr. Pepper, no nothing, right? Just water. And then it been like 6 months before I had a sip of pop, and I was just like, huh, interesting, right? And I would go home and they're pulling juice out the fridge. You want something to drink? I'm like, no, water's good. I'm like, that was weird. I'm like, it was a very weird thing for me that very subtly happened, but being able to speak to that and understand it when someone comes to you and they go, yeah, I just don't drink a lot of water. It's not like, well, then you don't want to be healthy. I didn't drink water. It wasn't encouraged. It wasn't taught.
sure.
No, either way. No, I will transition. I did ask it into that question, like transitioning into P2, right? We talked a bit about where you've been, what you've done, what's important to you. What are you most excited about? And for those who are listening, Paige is going to be our nutrition voice. Like she's going to bring that to P2. Obviously, we have people here who understand it. That's my major. We have 2 people who are certified. Obviously, Bryce understands it at a pretty high level as well. But to have someone come in who has made it their master craft, right? While training has been ours, Paige is going to come in. She's going to bring that voice here. She's going to bring a lot of expertise and specialty. But what are you most excited about in stepping into this new role? What are you hoping to bring to the people? What impact do you hope to have?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, I love that you guys can do the training because I'm good at it, but it's not now, it doesn't have to be my focus. I don't have to have it offered. It's going to be built right in. So that's going to be a really cool thing that we'll start letting you guys know that, yeah, training is going to look a little different coming from me now, so that I can just focus on the nutrition side of things. And I feel that the one-on-one weekly coaching is going to look very similar, just like beefed up, I think, right? And we've got to get there. But I am most excited for being able to like almost frame my coaching a little bit differently because I am coming from a very large bodybuilding culture to the point where my book was just mine and people still think it's written for bodybuilders. And that's like image and what's sexy, you know? And so I am excited to move not completely away from bodybuilding because I love it and will still coach it. And I want to still be involved in the cycles of someone's life, like as they go through a prep, do a show, and then come out of a prep. Like most of bodybuilders' lives is actually not bodybuilding when you really step back and look. And so I still love that side of things, but it's going to open me up to people who are just parents. Like I have college people, like college males, teenage girls who are about to go to college. I have moms and dads. I have grandparents. And this is actually, it's a really cool thing. Like obviously I can't relate on a personal level, but being so close with my mom and Brad's mom who are here all the time, I actually can somewhat relate to some of the things that some of my clients who are watching their grandchildren for their kids, because my mom says it to me. It's like it's a really cool thing that I get to, I hopefully will be found quicker by the people who I love working with, because those are the people who like, you know, bodybuilders by now know that they need to get their blood work done. I'm preaching to the choir. Like you're 40, that's perimenopause. You need to get your blood work done. You're in college and you haven't had a vegetable for 6 months. You should probably get your blood work done. You know, there are people who may not lose their cycle. Like blood work got real big when bodybuilders were losing their cycles. And it's like, well, yeah, your body fat's low. We're not eating a lot. Like it may happen. Amenorrhea is normal in those cases. We get it back. But irregular periods are way more prominent and also not normal, you know? And so if you're irregular there are just so many people that I cannot wait to talk to and help, men, female, literally, you know, teens are an exception, but let's say 18 to 70. I mean, like it's my favorite thing to do a lot of different stuff. And I think that I have the platform for it now.
I think that was exactly what I was going to say. Is that like, and we can't wait to provide that platform. I think that if you've been following the brand, it's definitely transitioned a bit more away from strictly bodybuilding into like, we love showcasing our moms and dads and people who just are fun and fit, and they're finding their love for fitness at 40. Like they just started training, you know, 2 years ago when they turned 39. And it's like, now, you know, I have moms that are, you know, 45, 46 years old, and they can pick up 90 pounds in each hand and take it for, you know, straight sets of 10. And that to me is so cool. Because I think,
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, I think like, we can see you're going to speak on bodybuilding. I think that it is such an aspirational space. Like so many people look at it because it's not like any other sport. It's not like, you know, the NBA where you watch LeBron and you go, I'm just going to watch because I could never do that. It's like, no, you watch people on stage, you watch people get fit. You're like, I can do that. I can go walk in the gym and find a love and do that to some degree. And so it's cool to help people explore that part of them.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, like, I think that with bodybuilding, like you do create such a cool culture. And I think it's also important to maintain that culture in your life, because again, maybe it's not going to be our focus, like it's not our key demographic, but I still want those people too, because again, after they're done competing, they're going to want people who get it. They're going to want people on their side who have done it and who, like you said, just like fit, fun people. Like we still want to cultivate a place where, like, I have a great relationship with tracking macros and bodybuilding, and I haven't done it forever, you know, and I think that that sets me apart in a lot of ways, because it's not like I had to completely separate myself. I'm in a place where a lot of people will be post bodybuilding, where I still want a community of people who get it, who take care of themselves, who know what a macro is, who can follow a training program still and not have to do it for a show. Like you don't need that motivation. You're just that type of person and you want to be surrounded by those people. Like I want those people too, because those are the people who need the support in transitioning from something that's so niche to like life again.
Yeah. No,
also stay close, right? Like you don't have to make a clean break.
No, I mean, 100%. I actually, Bryce earlier before we hopped on, he was talking to both of us and he said, you see the people online who are like, yeah, I work with dads named Jeff who are on the East Coast of the United States that work from 5 to 10 people. And I'm like, there needs to be one of those groups for people post bodybuilding. Because I think so many people hire coaches for bodybuilding or whatever sport, whatever they're trying to achieve, right? And then sport's done and you see that all go away, right? Like, how many like NFL greats that I watch get inducted into the Hall of Fame and they can barely fit into their suits because they're just fat now. And it's just like, because everything went out the window. They didn't think there was a reason to keep those habits. And yeah, you don't need to be training 3-4 times a day and dialing your diet down into the microgram, but integrating the culture, like you said, like there's a group of people right there that are not being talked to that just say, I'm done competing, so peace out, coach. And they kind of have to hang out in that like bodybuilding hangover space where they kind of hate the gym and they don't want to track, but they also hate the way they look right now because they've let themselves go and they're not maintaining any of the habits that they have. And it's a balancing act that they could use some help with, but there's just not a place where someone's like, hey, I can help you with that,
And it truly comes back to mindset. That's the whole thing. And like, if you set someone up from day one, the first day they say they want to do a competition, I am preparing you for 2 years after the last show you've ever done. I am planting seeds. You might be a year away from a show or your whatever, your meet, your whatever. And I'm still talking about what is it going to look like? What you just said, what's that going to look like 2 years post show? Right. And you need that for sure.
No, it's super important. Well, cool. In a wrap up and closing here, I will kind of hand it off to you, let you tell the people, just whatever you want to tell them. Obviously, we'll have a post coming here soon. Actually, you guys will have seen the post by the time this is up. So I'm going to hand it off to Paige. Let you guys know where to find her, what to expect, what she's excited about, and I'll sign us off.
By now, like Chris said, you guys know that this is happening. So I'm so glad you listened to the podcast. And this is just, I mean, we couldn't even get into the stuff that we're going to do. And I'm excited. And so right now, just find me through P2. The transition is in full effect and I am taking clients and I'm taking full-time nutrition clients. As I mentioned, we've got some training built into that. I'm also doing consultations and I've actually created one that is specifically for blood work. So if you want to know more about that, let me know. I think contact me through P2 and I'm ready to chat.
Yay. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And Paige, we are so excited to have you. Thanks guys. See you next time.